The ones who laughed at you yesterday are losing sleep over you today. That's the law of the unseen. And now, in 2025, it's no longer just whispers in the wind. It's undeniable. The chosen ones have risen. Those who mocked you, doubted you, and threw stones at your name now sit in the dark, wide-eyed and restless, haunted by the truth they can no longer escape. Their dreams have turned to nightmares, and the reason is simple: you. The year has changed, and so has the game. This is the year of reckoning, the year the tables turn, the year they finally realize who you've always been. For years, they underestimated you, mistaking your quiet resilience for weakness. But the truth is, like a fire, it might start as a spark, but it always spreads. Now, that flame has caught, and it's burning through the illusions they built to keep themselves comfortable. You've gone from being the one they ignored to the one they can't stop thinking about. They're replaying every conversation, every sneer, every dismissal, and it's hitting them like a freight train. How did we miss it? They ask. The answer? Because they were too blind to see. And to you, the chosen one, thank you. Whether this is your first time joining us or you've been a rock-solid supporter on this journey, know this: your presence and super gifts are the unstoppable force driving this mission forward. The fire inside you, the truth you've carried, and the strength you've built in the shadows have all led to this moment. If you're ready to step into your power, rise above the noise, and claim what's been yours all along, now's the time. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop a 77 in the comments below if you're ready to turn your isolation into the foundation of your transformation. This is 2025, your year, the year of the chosen one. Let's begin. Now, imagine this: a chessboard. They spent years playing checkers, quick moves, shallow victories, thinking they were ahead. Meanwhile, you were calculating every step, watching the board with clarity they couldn't fathom. Now it's checkmate. The game is over, and they're scrambling to understand how they lost so badly. But the truth is simple: they never even knew the game you were playing. They thought your silence was surrender, but it was strategy. While they chased the spotlight, you worked in the shadows. They wasted energy trying to be seen, but you spent your time becoming someone impossible to ignore. And now they can't sleep. Their minds are racing, their hearts are heavy, because they know they're out of time. 2025 is the year their comfort dies, and your destiny begins. Let's talk about sleepless nights. You've had your share, haven't you? Lying awake, carrying the weight of a truth no one else could see. But here's the difference: your sleepless nights built you. Theirs will break them. While they tossed and turned, laughing at you, mocking your vision, you were awake, sharpening your mind, strengthening your spirit, and preparing for this moment. And now that it's here, they're the ones losing rest, gripped by the realization that the joke was on them all along. Denial feels like freedom until reality shows up. And reality is here. The world is shifting, and you're at the center of it. They see it now. The very people who once dismissed you as a nobody now recognize you as the force they can't outrun. Every smirk, every insult, every laugh, they're choking on it now, wishing they could rewind the clock. But it's too late. The truth has arrived, and 2025, that's the year of the chosen one. And now, let's break it down step by step. Because if you're truly one of the chosen, you'll feel it. That pull, that undeniable force drawing you in, telling you this message is for you. Trust me, every word will resonate deeper as we go, and by the end, you'll see exactly why you were meant to stay through it all. Number 1. Last year they laughed, this year they're lost. They laughed at you because they didn't understand. Now they can't sleep because they finally do. Last year, 2024, they treated your vision like a joke, your truth like a punchline in their game of denial. Their arrogance sat heavy on their heads, like kings of a crumbling castle, mocking you from their thrones of ignorance. But here's the thing about wearing a crown made of false confidence. It gets heavier the closer reality comes. And in 2025, reality has arrived. That crown, it's no longer a symbol of power. It's a weight they can't carry, a reminder of how blind they were to the truth you carried all along. Picture it. Their laughter echoing like thunder last year, their jokes slicing through the air as if mocking you could rewrite the truth. How could someone like you possibly be ahead of us, they thought. But the storms they laughed through have now turned into sleepless nights, and that thunder, it's quiet now, replaced by the deafening sound of their regret. Because 2025 isn't just another year, it's the year they finally see. And the view, it's not what they expected. The chosen one they mocked is now the force they can't outrun. You might be asking yourself, why did they laugh? Why did they doubt me? The answer is simple. They weren't ready for you. Your vision threatened their illusions. Your truth exposed their lies. People mock what they don't understand because it's easier than admitting they might be wrong. Denial isn't just ignorance, it's fear in disguise. And fear, it laughs the loudest before it crumbles. Now, as 2025 unfolds, they're no longer laughing. Their silence screams louder than their insults ever did. Imagine a torch burning in the darkness. Last year they were too blinded by their own shadows to see your light. But fire doesn't wait for approval, it burns anyway. And now that light is undeniable, illuminating every mistake they made in underestimating you, they've gone from dismissing you to replaying every word you said, every move you made, trying to figure out how they missed it. It's almost poetic, isn't it? The ones who claim to have it all figured out are now the ones stumbling in the dark, while you've been walking the path all along. And let's address the question that lingers in your mind. Do they regret it? Do they see what they've done? Oh, they see it. Every sleepless night, every fidgeting glance, every whispered apology that never makes it to your ears. It's all a silent confession. They regret it not because they cared about you back then, but because now they can't escape the truth you've become. Last year, their laughter was their armor. This year, it's their undoing. Because while they mocked, you built. While they laughed, you learned. And while they stayed blind, you sharpened your vision. 2025 isn't just a new chapter, it's the reckoning. And the ones who laughed at your rise, they're now the ones lost in the very shadows they tried to throw over you. Number 2. 2024 was the setup. 2025 is the showdown. Patience is power. The moves you made in silence will always roar louder than their noise. Last year, 2024, wasn't about winning applause or claiming victory. It was about building the foundation while they weren't looking. They mistook your quiet for complacency, your stillness for surrender. But they forgot one unshakable truth. The strongest storms brew in silence. And now, as 2025 dawns, they're realizing this isn't just another year. It's the showdown they never saw coming. The stage you built in the shadows is now center stage, and you're holding the spotlight. You remember their words, don't you? The whispers behind your back, the mocking glances, the dismissive attitudes. They thought they had it all figured out. Look at them, going nowhere, doing nothing. What a waste. What they failed to understand is that not every move is meant to be seen. Chess masters don't scream their strategy across the board. They wait, watching their opponents burn themselves out with reckless moves, biding their time until the moment for checkmate comes. And now, in 2025, that moment has arrived. Last year was their playground. They strutted around like peacocks, loud and boastful, feeding their egos with hollow victories. They mistook speed for progress, thinking the louder they moved, the further ahead they were. But while they were busy running circles around illusions, you were carving out the truth, one quiet move at a time. The groundwork you laid in 2024 wasn't meant for applause. It was meant for endurance. And endurance, that's what outlasts everything else. Imagine a seed buried deep in the earth. To the outside world, it looks like nothing. The soil is still, the surface untouched, and anyone looking might think there's no life there. But underground, beneath what the eye can see, roots are forming. Strength is being built. The seed isn't idle, it's preparing. That's what 2024 was for you. They saw the surface and thought it was all there was. But the roots you built in silence are now breaking through, and the tree you've become is too tall for them to ignore. And here's the irony. They thought they were ahead. They paraded their progress like it was set in stone, but the truth is, they were sprinting in place while you were running a marathon. "Why aren't they moving faster?" they asked, mistaking your patience for a lack of direction. What they didn't realize is that slow doesn't mean stagnant. Slow means deliberate. Every move you made in 2024 wasn't just a step, it was a strategy. And now, as 2025 unfolds, they're left trying to understand how you got so far ahead. Let's talk about the showdown. It isn't about fighting them, it's about proving something greater. This year isn't about rubbing their faces in your success or forcing them to acknowledge what they missed. No, the showdown is between you and your own potential. It's about stepping into the spotlight with the confidence of someone who knows exactly what they're capable of. You don't need their validation, and you never did. But here's the beauty of it. They're watching anyway, unable to look away from the masterpiece you've been quietly building all along. The foundation you set in 2024 is solid now, unshakable. Their arrogance was built on sand, but your patience has created something that will last. And as they scramble to find their footing in the wake of their shortcuts and impulsive decisions, you're walking steadily into the spotlight you've earned, not because of luck, not because of applause, but because of the quiet, intentional work you put in when no one was paying attention. You might wonder, do they regret it? Do they finally see it? Oh, they do. They see it every time they try to move forward and realize they're still stuck. They see it every time they glance at you, realizing the distance between where they are and where you've risen. They're asking themselves, how did we miss it? How did they get here? But deep down, they already know the answer. They were so busy looking for noise that they missed the quiet brilliance happening right in front of them. 2024 wasn't the year of applause. It was the setup. It was the year of quiet growth, deliberate moves, and unseen victories. But 2025, this is the year of the reckoning, the year the world sees what you've been working toward. The stage is yours, and the doubters, the mockers, the ones who underestimated you, they're all in the audience now, watching in silence, knowing they were wrong all along. They thought the game was over, but you were just getting started. And now, in 2025, the stage isn't just set. It's yours to own. Number 3. They rested while you raced. Now they're playing catch-up. Comfort is a slow poison, and ambition is the antidote. In 2024, they chose the easy road. They leaned back, rested on their false sense of security, and convinced themselves that you'd stay exactly where they left you. To them, you were a fixed point, stuck in place, no threat to their comfort or illusions. But comfort is a trap, a gilded cage that lulls people into complacency, and they walked right into it. While they rested, you raced. And now, in 2025, they're waking up to the harsh truth. The distance you've created is impossible to close. It's funny how they thought time was on their side. They wasted it like it was infinite, while you treated every second like gold. They scoffed at your pace, mocking the steps you were taking because they didn't seem flashy enough. "Why are they trying so hard?" they whispered, laughing at your quiet grind. What they didn't realize is that while they were busy relaxing, you were building momentum. And momentum, it's unstoppable once it catches fire. Imagine two runners on a track. One sprints ahead, celebrating every small lead, thinking the race is already won. The other, they pace themselves, focused, steady, and deliberate. The sprinter feels invincible until they look back and realize the steady runner has not only caught up, but surpassed them miles ahead. That's where they find themselves now. In 2025, their sprint has burned out, and they're stuck gasping for air while you've lapped them entirely. It's not just a race anymore, it's a gap they can't close. And now they're scrambling. Their comfort, the same thing that made them feel untouchable, is the very reason they're panicking now. While they rested on their laurels, you were sharpening your tools. While they took shortcuts, you mastered the long game. They see it now, the sleepless nights you endured, the sacrifices you made, the relentless push forward. They're connecting the dots, but it's too late. The time they wasted is gone, and the lead you've built is too vast to overcome. They underestimated the power of persistence, the strength of someone who refuses to quit, even when no one is watching. In 2024, they convinced themselves that ambition was just noise. But in 2025, your ambition has turned into an unshakable reality. The gap between you and them isn't just physical, it's mental, emotional, and undeniable. They see your progress and realize they never even understood the race you were running. You don't need to look back at them. The victory isn't in their regret, it's in your momentum. They rested while you raced, and now they're left with nothing but excuses and the haunting realization that comfort was their enemy all along. Meanwhile, you've crossed into a place they can't even reach. This is 2025, and the race isn't just won, it's over. Number 4. From background noise to the main event. They ignored you when you were quiet. Now they're obsessed with you because you're undeniable. Last year, 2024, they brushed you off like static on the radio, treating your presence like background noise in their lives. They heard you, but never listened, saw you, but never looked. To them, you were just another face in the crowd, a faint hum they could tune out whenever it was convenient. But what they didn't realize is the background noise has a way of building into a crescendo. And now, in 2025, that crescendo is deafening. You're not just a piece of their story anymore. You are the story, and they can't take their eyes off you. They didn't understand your vision, and truthfully, they didn't want to. Acknowledging you would have meant facing the unsettling possibility that you were onto something bigger, something they couldn't comprehend. So they labeled your ideas as insignificant and swept them under the rug, confident that you'd fade into obscurity. But obscurity was never your destination. It was your preparation. While they were busy writing you off, you were quietly rewriting the narrative. And now, the script has flipped. Picture this: a movie where the background character suddenly becomes the protagonist, the one who carries the plot, the one everyone roots for when the truth comes to light. That's you. The camera has shifted, and they can't look away from the spotlight you've claimed. Every move you make now commands attention, not because you're demanding it, but because your rise is impossible to ignore. You see, their biggest mistake wasn't underestimating you. It was assuming you'd stay in the shadows. They thought your silence meant you weren't capable, that your patience meant you weren't prepared. What they didn't see was the storm brewing behind your calm, the strength being forged in every moment they ignored you. They were busy chasing noise, filling their lives with distractions, while you were building something real. And now that it's here, it's too big for them to deny. They're watching you now, but not with the same dismissiveness as before. Their eyes are wide with realization, their expressions heavy with the weight of regret. How did we miss this? They wonder, as if the answer isn't obvious. They missed it because they weren't looking. They were too focused on their own noise to notice your quiet brilliance. And now, as your name echoes louder than their pride ever could, they can't escape the truth they spent so long trying to avoid. This isn't just a rise, it's a revelation. In 2025, you've become the center of the story, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. Their dismissal of you last year wasn't the end of your narrative, it was just the prologue. Now, as the main event, you're not just proving them wrong, you're showing them that the story was always bigger than they could see. And the best part? You've only just begun. Number 5. 2024 was denial. 2025 is reckoning. Denial is a luxury they can no longer afford. Reality doesn't knock, it breaks down the door. Last year, 2024, was their playground of ignorance, a sanctuary built on the fragile foundation of denial. They clung to their illusions like lifeboats, pretending the storm wasn't coming. But denial doesn't stop the tide. It only delays the inevitable. And now, in 2025, the reckoning has arrived. The truth they refuse to face is here, unyielding, undeniable, and staring them down with the force of everything they tried to ignore. You remember how they lived in their bubbles last year, don't you? Acting as though their world was unshakable, their beliefs untouchable. They dismissed the cracks in the facade, brushing off every sign that something greater was coming. It's fine, nothing's changing, everything is under control. But ignorance doesn't protect you, it blinds you. And while they were busy convincing themselves everything was fine, you saw the writing on the wall. They laughed at your warnings, scoffed at your vision, and called you paranoid for daring to see beyond their shallow realities. Imagine a dam holding back an unstoppable river. For a while, it looks strong, solid, and unbreakable. But underneath, the cracks are forming, the pressure is building, and it's only a matter of time before the flood comes. That dam was their denial, and the flood is 2025. Now, as the water rushes in, they're scrambling for higher ground, choking on the truth they fought so hard to avoid. Every crack they ignored has turned into a full collapse, and there's no going back. You might wonder, why didn't they see it coming? How could they ignore something so obvious? The answer is simple: fear. Denial is easier than facing a truth that demands change. It's easier to pretend the storm isn't coming than to prepare for it. But fear doesn't stop reality. It only delays the fallout. And now that fallout is here. Every illusion they clung to, every comforting lie they told themselves, has shattered, leaving them exposed and vulnerable in a world they're finally seeing for what it truly is. And where are you? standing strong, exactly where you've always been. You didn't need their validation last year, and you don't need it now. But they see you. They see the one they mocked, dismissed, and underestimated standing tall while they struggle to make sense of the chaos. You've always been ahead, not because of luck or arrogance, but because you faced the truth when they couldn't. 2024 was the year they buried their heads in the sand, thinking ignorance would shield them. But denial has an expiration date, and 2025 is the reckoning they can't escape. Now, as the dust settles and the truth stands tall, one thing is crystal clear. You were right all along, and they're finally forced to see it. The game has changed, and you're not just part of it. You're leading it. Welcome to their reckoning and your rise. Number 6. The year of waiting is over. It's time to take the throne. What's meant for you will always be yours, but only when you're ready to take it. Last year, 2024, was a year of stillness, a year of patience, and a year of quiet preparation. While others rushed ahead chasing temporary victories and loud applause, you stayed in the shadows, sharpening your tools, refining your vision, and building a foundation no one could see. They mistook your patience for passivity, your waiting for weakness. But now, in 2025, the wait is over. This is the year you step out of the shadows and into the spotlight. This is the year you claim the throne they swore you'd never reach. They never understood the power of waiting. To them, movement is all that matters. Loud, chaotic, and aimless movement. They danced for attention, burned themselves out in the frenzy of chasing every fleeting opportunity. But you knew better. You knew that patience isn't the absence of action. It's the precision of preparation. Like a lion stalking its prey, you waited for the right moment, not because you were hesitant, but because you were deliberate. And now, the moment has arrived. 2024 was your training ground. It was the year of long nights, quiet sacrifices, and hard decisions. You endured the whispers, the doubts, the endless questions. Why aren't they doing more? Why aren't they further along? They didn't realize that every step you took, no matter how small, was part of a larger plan. They couldn't see the empire you were quietly building brick by brick because they were too busy looking for fireworks. And now, in 2025, they're finally seeing what you've been building all along. Picture this: a throne sitting empty, surrounded by doubters who convinced themselves it would never be yours. They laughed when you said you'd take it. They mocked the quiet way you worked. But here's the truth they were too blind to see. That throne was never theirs to begin with. It was always waiting for you, the chosen one, to rise and claim it. And now, it's not just a possibility, it's inevitable. This is the year you walk up the steps they swore you'd never climb and take your rightful place. You might be asking, why now? Why not before? Because before, you weren't ready. The weight of the throne isn't something to take lightly. It demands strength, clarity, and the kind of resilience that only comes from weathering the storms they tried to bury you in. Last year gave you that strength. It tempered you like fire to steel, shaping you into someone who doesn't just sit on the throne, but rules it with power and purpose. Now, as you rise, they're scrambling to understand how it happened. They're choking on their own disbelief, wondering how the person they overlooked is now the one they can't ignore. But this isn't their story. It's yours. 2024 was the waiting room. 2025 is the coronation. And the throne. It's no longer just a dream. It's yours. Number 7. What they mocked last year, they admire this year. Mockery is the loudest cry of those who fear what they don't understand. Last year, 2024, their laughter was a weapon, their arrogance a shield. They ridiculed your vision, tore apart your patience, and dismissed your silence as weakness. You remember the sting of their words, don't you? The way they sneered at your choices, pointing fingers and laughing as though your quiet persistence was something to pity. But here's the irony. What they mocked last year, they can't stop admiring this year. In 2025, those same traits they belittled have become the pillars of your rise, and now their silence is louder than their insults ever were. They thought they knew you. They looked at your steady, deliberate steps and saw hesitation. They mocked your patience as if waiting meant you were lost. To them, your refusal to rush looked like fear. Your lack of noise felt like failure. What are they even doing? They laughed. But what they never understood is that the strongest moves are the quietest. They were so busy shouting from their pedestals of temporary wins that they never noticed the foundation you were building beneath their feet. Picture a mountain being shaped. From a distance it looks untouched, unchanging. But beneath the surface there's a tectonic shift, quiet and unrelenting. Last year while they laughed, that's what you were doing, shifting, growing, preparing. And now, in 2025, you've emerged, unshakable, while their arrogance crumbles like loose gravel. The mountain you've become isn't just impressive, it's immovable. And they're standing at its base, staring up in awe, wondering how they missed the climb. Here's the truth. Their mockery was never about you. It was about their fear of what you represented. Your patience exposed their impulsiveness. Your silence highlighted their insecurity. Your resilience shattered their need for constant validation. To accept you for who you were meant they'd have to question everything about themselves, and they weren't ready for that. So instead, they laughed, they mocked, they dismissed, because it was easier than admitting you were doing what they couldn't. And now, they admire you, not out of choice, but necessity. They can't help but see it. The strength in your patience, the power in your silence, the unstoppable force of your persistence. The very traits they belittled last year are now the ones they're trying to emulate. It's almost poetic. The ones who mocked your journey are now looking for directions on the very path they said you'd never reach. You might wonder, do they regret it? Do they feel the weight of what they did? Oh, they feel it. Every admiring glance, every hesitant compliment, every awkward silence is laced with the sting of regret. They know they were wrong, but they'll never say it outright. Their pride won't let them, and yet their actions betray them. They're watching you now, not with laughter, but with awe, and maybe even envy. 2024 was their year to laugh, but 2025, this is your year to rise. And as they watch in stunned silence, one thing is clear. The joke is on them. Number 8. The year they can't ignore you. The truth ignored is not the truth erased. It waits, growing louder, until it becomes impossible to ignore. That's what 2025 is for you. The year they can't look away, no matter how hard they try. Last year they lived in a fantasy of denial, convincing themselves that your presence, your truth, your rise didn't matter. They blocked you out, turned their backs, and pretended you were just another voice in the crowd. But now they can't escape the reality staring them down. You've become undeniable. Imagine standing in a room full of people whispering, trying to drown you out. That's what 2024 felt like. They thought their noise could overshadow your silence. They thought their ignorance could nullify your power. But the thing about truth is, it doesn't vanish just because it's ignored. Like a drumbeat in the distance, it gets louder, steadier, impossible to tune out. And this year, that drumbeat is deafening. You might wonder, why now? Why can't they ignore me anymore? The answer is simple. Time reveals everything. While they wasted energy convincing themselves you didn't matter, you were making moves they couldn't see. Quietly, steadily, you built something real, something they can't dismiss. Now, your presence demands their attention, whether they like it or not. They're not just noticing you, they're obsessing over every step you take, every move you make, because they realize they missed the signs all along. Picture this: a wildfire spreading in a forest. At first, it's just smoke, easy to dismiss, easy to ignore. But that's the mistake they made. They didn't see the flames building, the heat intensifying, until now, when it's too big to contain. That's you in 2025. They thought they could overlook you, but you've become a force that burns too brightly to be ignored. They can't run from it, they can't hide from it, and they can't pretend it doesn't exist anymore. Their silence last year was their shield, their way of clinging to the illusion that they were still in control. But this year, their silence has turned into something else entirely: recognition. They're frozen, stunned, watching as you take center stage in a way they never thought possible. And the most satisfying part? You didn't need their approval to get here. Your success isn't built on their acknowledgement, it's built on your resilience. 2024 was the year they underestimated you. But 2025? This is the year they're forced to confront the truth they tried so hard to ignore. You were always a step ahead, always destined for more. And now they can't look away. Not because they want to see you rise, but because they can't believe they didn't see it coming. So let them watch. Let them wrestle with their own denial. Because this year, 2025, is yours. And the best part? They can't ignore it. Not now, not ever again. Number 9. From shadows to spotlight, 2025 is your year. The spotlight isn't given, it's earned. And now, after all the years of grinding in the dark, it's finally shining on you. 2024 wasn't glamorous. It wasn't loud or flashy. It was the year of quiet battles fought behind the scenes, the kind of work that doesn't make headlines but shapes destinies. You weren't chasing applause, you were building something real. And now, in 2025, the curtain is rising, and the world can finally see the results of everything you poured into the grind. What was once overlooked has now become undeniable. Last year, they didn't notice you. They were too busy focusing on noise, distracted by the flash of empty victories and shallow ambitions. You were in the background, silent and steady, while they clamored for attention. What are they even doing? They probably wondered, mistaking your quiet for insignificance. But here's the truth they couldn't grasp. The most powerful transformations happen in the shadows. Seeds grow in the dark before they break through the soil. Diamonds are formed under pressure before they ever see the light. And now, you're stepping into that light, no longer hidden, no longer underestimated. The ones who doubted you are watching in disbelief, trying to figure out how you got here. They didn't see the sleepless nights, the sacrifices, the relentless work you put in while they were resting on their laurels. They only see the results now, and it's hitting them hard. How did we miss this? They're asking themselves, as if the signs weren't always there. But their blindness wasn't your problem. It was their lesson to learn. And now, as they scramble to understand your rise, you stand tall, unapologetic in the spotlight you earned. In 2024, you weren't just working, you were evolving. Every quiet step forward, every small victory, every lesson learned was a brick in the foundation you've built. The world may not have noticed then, but you did. You knew where you were headed, even when it felt like no one else believed in you. And now, in 2025, the world is catching up to the vision you've had all along. They're seeing what you've always known. You were never in the shadows because you were lesser. You were in the shadows because you were preparing to shine. Let's be clear, this isn't about proving them wrong. It's not about rubbing your success in their faces. It's about owning your truth, stepping into your power, and claiming what's been yours all along. The spotlight isn't their validation, it's your victory. The noise they made last year is nothing compared to the light you're shining now. 2025 is the year of the chosen one. It's the year your grind becomes your glory, your patience becomes your power, and your transformation becomes undeniable. You're not just stepping out of the shadows, you're owning the spotlight. And they're left watching, stunned, as the truth of who you've always been finally comes to light. Number 10. Their shortcuts failed, your strategy won. Shortcuts cut corners, but they also cut results. In 2024, they sprinted, desperate for quick wins and easy victories, convinced that speed and flash were all that mattered. They lived for the applause, the fleeting rush of being seen, even if their foundation was crumbling beneath them. To them, you were invisible, too slow, too methodical, too deliberate to be a threat. But here's the thing about shortcuts. They never lead to lasting success. And now, in 2025, the cracks in their plans are showing, while the strength of your strategy is undeniable. Think back to their hustle last year. They flaunted their shallow victories like trophies, plastering their short-term gains across every corner of their world, chasing the thrill of instant recognition. They mocked your pace, your patience, your unwillingness to join their race to nowhere. "What are they even doing?" they asked, mistaking your precision for passivity. But what they didn't understand was that your moves weren't meant to impress the moment. They were meant to build the future. Imagine a house built in a day. Sure, it might look impressive from the outside, but the foundation, it's weak, rushed, and unable to withstand the test of time. That's what their shortcuts were, a house of cards, ready to collapse at the first sign of a storm. Meanwhile, you were digging deep, laying concrete, and reinforcing every corner of your vision. And now that 2025 is here, the storms have come, and their shortcuts have failed spectacularly. Now, they're scrambling. The rewards they once celebrated have dried up, leaving them fumbling for answers they can't find. And every time they glance your way, they're hit with the bitter truth. While they were busy sprinting, you were playing the long game. You weren't chasing applause, you were building something unshakable. And now, while their empire of shortcuts crumbles, yours stands tall, steady, and unbreakable. Why didn't we see this coming? That's the question echoing in their minds. But deep down, they know the answer. They saw the warnings, the cracks in their foundation, the emptiness of their victories. But they ignored them, convincing themselves they were too far ahead to fail. Now, as reality catches up, they're forced to watch as your strategy solidifies into something they can't touch. Every step you took was intentional, every move calculated, and now every result speaks louder than their loudest boasts ever did. This isn't just a win, it's a lesson. 2024 showed them the cost of shortcuts, but 2025 is teaching them the power of strategy. They rushed for quick rewards, you worked for lasting results, and now, as they fumble in the aftermath of their own mistakes, you're not just ahead, you're untouchable. They gambled on speed, but you mastered the game. And in 2025, the difference couldn't be clearer. Shortcuts fail, but strategy always wins. Number 11. 2024 was their illusion. 2025 is their wake-up call. The worst kind of blindness is the one we choose for ourselves. Last year, in 2024, they clung to their illusions like lifeboats in calm waters, convinced their noisy moves and hollow victories meant they were ahead. They painted a picture of progress, but it was a mirage, an illusion crafted from arrogance, denial, and a desperate need to feel superior. But illusions don't last forever. And now, in 2025, reality has arrived, shattering their fragile world and leaving them face to face with the truth they never wanted to see. You were never behind. You were always the one who saw the bigger picture. Their illusion was comforting, wasn't it? It gave them a false sense of control, a false sense of superiority. They measured progress in noise, in temporary wins, in how loudly they could announce their next meaningless move. "Look how far we've come," they told themselves, mistaking motion for momentum, mistaking distraction for direction. But while they were busy celebrating their illusions, you were quietly building something real, something that would outlast every hollow step they took. Think of a house built on sand. It looks fine at first glance, even impressive if you don't look too closely. But the foundation is weak, unable to support the weight of reality. That was their 2024, a series of shallow victories stacked on top of each other, waiting to collapse. And now, as the storms of 2025 roll in, the cracks are showing, the walls are buckling, and they're realizing too late that everything they built was destined to fall. Meanwhile, your progress wasn't loud, it was deliberate. They dismissed you because they couldn't see the roots you were planting, the foundation you were strengthening. They convinced themselves you were stagnant because you didn't play their game of empty moves. But now, as their illusions crumble, they're waking up to the truth. You didn't just see the bigger picture. You were building it while they were busy staring at their reflections. And here's the irony. They thought you were the one out of touch. They mocked your patience, your foresight, your refusal to chase after shallow victories. "Why aren't they moving faster?" they asked, convinced their quick steps meant progress. But now, as the dust settles, they're the ones scrambling to figure out where it all went wrong. The answer is simple. Their noise never mattered. The picture they painted for themselves was just that, a picture, a pretty facade with no depth, no substance. You might wonder if they regret it now, if they see their mistakes. The answer is in their eyes, in their restless glances and quiet desperation. They know they fooled themselves, clinging to the comfort of their illusions while you were forging a path they couldn't see. And now that the wake-up call has come, they're left reeling, realizing they wasted 2024 chasing smoke while you were building the fire. This is 2025. Their illusion is gone, and the truth stands unshaken. The one they overlooked, the one they underestimated. You were never in the game they thought they were winning. You were playing for something bigger, something lasting. And now they see it. Now they know. Number 12. Last year you waited. This year you lead. Leaders aren't born. They're forged in silence, waiting, preparing, and rising when the time is right. Last year, 2024, wasn't your year to shine. It was your year to wait. Every test, every trial, every moment you were overlooked wasn't a punishment. It was preparation. While they moved loud and fast, you stood steady, sharpening your skills, fortifying your spirit, and learning what it truly means to lead. Now, in 2025, the waiting is over. You're stepping into your role as the one who doesn't just follow the path, they create it. They thought your patience was hesitation, your silence a sign of surrender. But what they failed to understand is that true leadership doesn't emerge overnight. It's built brick by brick in the quiet moments when no one's watching. While they were chasing quick wins and shallow recognition, you were building a foundation too deep to be shaken. And now, as this year unfolds, you're no longer in the background, you're in the lead, and they're scrambling to catch up. Think back to last year. How many times did you wonder if the wait was worth it? How many sleepless nights did you spend questioning whether your path was the right one? That's the thing about waiting. It tests you in ways action never can. But here's the truth. While they mocked your stillness, you were learning the discipline it takes to outlast the noise. And in 2025, discipline wins. The ones who raced ahead without a plan are now stuck, watching in disbelief as you stride past them with the confidence they never had. Leadership isn't about being loud, it's about moving with purpose. And that's exactly what you've done. Every step you took last year, no matter how small or unseen, was a piece of the bigger picture they couldn't see. Now that picture is coming into focus, and they're realizing they never understood the game you were playing. How did they get here? They ask themselves, blinded by their own arrogance. But the truth is simple. You waited, you prepared, and now you lead. Let's be clear, this isn't about them. It's about you stepping fully into the role you were always meant to play. Last year, the tests of patience and resilience were about more than just surviving. They were about proving to yourself that you could rise above anything. Now, as 2025 unfolds, you're not just leading the charge, you're redefining the rules of what it means to lead. The ones who once doubted you are now looking to you for direction, even if their pride keeps them silent. This is your year. The waiting is over. The stage is yours. And the ones who couldn't see your vision before are now struggling to keep pace with the brilliance they dismissed. In 2025, you don't just lead, you set the standard. And while they scramble in your wake, you move forward, unstoppable, unshaken, and undeniably in charge. In conclusion, 2025 is the year you step fully into your power, the year your patience transforms into leadership, and your vision becomes undeniable. The waiting, the silence, the preparation. It all led to this moment where you rise as the leader they never saw coming. They're watching now, and the stage is yours to own. If this resonates with you, if you're ready to claim your role and lead the charge, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and share this message with someone who needs to hear it. Drop the number 77 in the comments if you're done waiting and ready to rise. Let's begin.